New Amsterdam Radio is, of course, brought to you apart by newamsterdam.com, home of the Notebook One. Whether you use it as a dream journal or a way to get things done, the Notebook One is a reimagined notebook with creative people in mind, supreme construction, excellent durability. You can get yours with this promo code RADIO, RADIO, radio at newamsterdam.com. Welcome, citizen. Hello, Flobo Boyce here, and you are listening to New Amsterdam Radio. New Amsterdam Radio, where we look at the creative people, the creative companies, the creative processes, and see how they grow and how they evolve, and what we can draw from that as we go on our own little journeys. You know, it is the fall. Thanksgiving time is just past here in the United States, and for those of you not familiar, it's a time for hanging with family and eating a lot and being in front of the game of choice, whether or not it's football or fantasy football. But today's episode of New Amsterdam Radio, I want to talk to you about professional wrestling, namely the largest pro wrestling circuit on the planet, World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE. And what does that have to do with what you are working on? What does that have to do with your creative ideas and endeavors? You know, one of the greatest things about the American dream, and for those of you who don't live in the United States, we have this ideal about if you work really hard, if you put your nose to the grindstone, you save and help out your community, that you too can touch opportunity. You too can build something from nothing. And depending on who you ask, either that is still true 100%, or if the person is very cynical, that is someone that says that's not possible at all. The American dream. I'm always of the intuition of the influence that this country is the land of opportunities and not promises. There are things out there you can go and obtain and build upon, but no one's going to give it to you. And even if you work hard and everything lines up, sometimes you still may fail. Now, I know at some point, all of us has had an idea creatively to see what we can work on, whether it's something like a side business on Etsy.com or whether or not it's a project you start off in your garage, creative ideas, or something that is a bit of a spark, and we'll be lying to ourselves if we didn't think about doing this successfully. Whether you consider success to be gobs and gobs of money, or whether or not you consider success to be a member of the community, or being so successful that you build a cottage industry around what you're working on. And I really thought, taking a step back, trying to find a real world example of what I mean, and I have to say, I'm a huge wrestling fan, huge, and we are in a very, very good period of professional wrestling. Whether or not it's local federations or independent federations, more and more groups are getting their own internet deals, television deals, streaming deals, all that stuff. But it always comes back to the most senior circuit, the one that if you are a wrestler or a wrestling fan, you are almost always aware of, and that is the World Wrestling Entertainment. And we can talk about the actual in-ring product. We can talk about the rosters. But I really want to talk to you about the growth of a small business, going from something that was, or an industry that really came down per city, something that was very regional. You know, the local gym or armory or hall would have these weekly events, and you pretty much would go with your family either after an afternoon of lunch and supper, or after church, depending on the day the performance was. And it was kind of from a bygone era of the traveling circus. There will be shows certain weeks, and they'll pack their stuff up and move on to the next town. And we saw that change with the then World Wrestling Federation taking something that was regional and making it national. Today, that company has exploded. Whether or not you have seen the shows or not, there is a huge industry underneath not only the actual art of professional wrestling, but the WWE itself. Now, there's television shows and monthly specials called pay-per-views, which is a term from a bygone era when all these special shows were on cable. Their own streaming network, and there's merchandise, there's glassware, there's appearances, partnerships with other companies and licensing and charity work. It's become bigger than the product itself. It is a integrated media company, which today is trading on the stock market. Now, it may not be something that is really on your path, right? You're not sitting here thinking, okay, bro, I like to draw. I don't expect to outsource everything and become this multi-million-dollar company. But it's something to think about, and how growth from what was essentially a family business, if done right, can really build into something fantastic. And speaking of drawing, we were thinking about Robert Kirkman, who was an artist and illustrator and writer of The Walking Dead, which itself had became a property, intellectual property to be desired, whether or not you've seen the many, many board games from that property or the TV show or the movies. And there was also Kirkman's imprint, Skybound, which is part of Image, which itself has its own roster of characters and its own brand loyalty and its own fans. And these are some things that I know we kind of pester ourselves to being the starving artist just to focus on the craft, and that's great, and you really should more often than not. But what's wrong with kicking back and thinking ahead of what if? What's wrong with thinking back and saying, what would be interesting if this worked out? What would be interesting if my art form that was as cast aside or ridiculed as a weekly carnival show or a couple of sketches or a short story or a novel, what if it blows up, to use a phrase, and you have fans and you have more products that spun off from that product? And what if you have side industries that develop because of your success? It's always something to consider, and it's always something to think about when you see the growth of brands. Now, there's some brands out there that may seem new and they're pretty much backed by another organization that's already established, and that's something too. But definitely it's fun to see something going from nothing to something huge, something influential, something that stands the test of time. In the past 30 years, I mean, things like Harry Potter or Deadpool have lent itself to so many fans. It's now intergenerational. There are fathers and mothers teaching their kids about these characters they love. Star Wars, another example. This does it for this edition of New Amsterdam Radio. Make sure you tell your friends and your family about this show, this podcast, and all the episodes that are coming down the pipe. You even go back and check out some of the older episodes wherever you get your podcast. My name is Flobo Boyce, and I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Until next time, the city's yours.